You are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm Samantha Brown, a professional organizer and business coach. In this podcast, you will learn how to start and scale the organizing business of your dreams. So let's jump in. All right, so welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Today, we have Liz Halvorsen from Mess to Bliss, and she is located in upstate New York. So thank you, Liz, for coming on the podcast today.
You are welcome, Samantha. Thank you for having me.
And so I really hope that this series of different organizers blesses each and every one of you that are listening. And so first, I wanted Liz to tell us a little bit about how she became an organizer, a little bit of her backstory of just who she is.
Great. Okay. So I probably similar to other professional organizers around the country. I've always enjoyed keeping things neat and tidy. Not necessarily like, I don't really enjoy vacuuming and dusting and doing windows, but I like things in my home to have order. My husband and I, we have 3 children who are now 16, 14, and 11. But when they were younger, we've never lived in large homes. Like we had a 600 square foot condo outside of Boston when our son was born. And so never lived outside of our square footage. Like we didn't buy a giant extra saucer when he was a baby. You know, we kind of kept everything contained and neat and tidy because we wouldn't be able to live if we didn't have that. And as our kids, we gained more children, we have 2 more, our homes they're not giant. Like we don't have a McMansion. We live very reasonably. But again, I don't let the things kind of exceed the space. With that background, and also I was a school counselor, a middle school, junior, senior high school counselor for a little over 10 years. So that background as well, listening to people's problems, being empathetic, also tied in with the organizational piece. There came a point in my school counseling career where I felt like I was getting burnt out, like many people do in various jobs across the country. And I told my husband, I'm like, you know what, I think I can do this. This was kind of around the time where, you know, Marie Kondo was big and the home edit was kind of gaining steam. So I said, I think I can take a leave for a year. And if it's something I love and I'm good at it and we make some kind of money, that's great. And if we don't, like I have my degree, like I can still apply for another counseling job down the road or a teaching job. So I started it in 2018. You know, it was slow to start like anything. You know, you just have to gain clientele, and living in upstate New York, you know, it's the Capital District area. So it's Albany. I know people from like Westchester County think upstate New York is like anything above New York City, but we live like right in the capital region, and it's still kind of new to this area. Like, you know, I follow a lot of people on social media that have businesses, you know, down in the city or in Boston or Chicago, these big hubs of networks. And, you know, Albany is small. But, you know, I've done a lot of kind of word of mouth. My cousin is a phenomenal mentor and coach to me. She started her own wedding planning business from the ground up, and she's a huge force in the Capital District. And so I relied on her a lot when I was starting this business. Like, do you think I can do this? And what do I need to do? And so she's been a mentor to me along the way. It started small. Like you would not expect to make, you know, $60,000 a year starting out, or half that, or, you know, so it definitely is helpful that most organizers, I feel like if they don't have a partner or someone else in their life to kind of help with the income, they often do it as a side hustle at first. And I get that now. Like I had the advantage of not needing to do that, but you know, most people will start out as doing just like little weekend or evening projects. But for me, I think it's just kind of gaining more momentum and, you know, talking to people in my neighborhood and different moms and, you know, offering like gift certificates to help older parents of friends of mine. That was kind of how this started and kind of built momentum from there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's awesome. You know, like you said, you did have something to fall back on technically, but you
Hmm.
still had to take that leap of faith. You had to take that jump at some point and be like, okay, I'm all in.
And we knew at the time, like, I never took time off. When I took the 6 week leave when my kids were born, and that was it. Like, I went back to work like 6 weeks later. So it was kind of like, I thought, well, and I can also try the stay at home mom thing, like I can be around to go in and do, PTA events, or I can pick them up from school instead of having them be in aftercare, which was then costing us money too. We paid for before school and after school care. So we kind of played with all these numbers in our head. And I said, I should just try it. It's like almost like little kismet things that you don't know are going to work out, but everything kind of happens for a reason.
Like when I first started this podcast, my like heart's cry was to help other women break off the poverty mentality of having to live day to day, having to live paycheck to paycheck, not knowing if you're going to be able to feed your kids, not knowing if you're going to be able to make a bill. Like that is a very hard place to be. And when you've got skills that are worth value to other people, like it really can change your life.
Exactly. I've talked to other people in the field. People always say, like, you can't undervalue yourself. And, this is a real skill. I mean, did I get a 4 year degree in home organization? No. But, there's also a lot of other careers kind of develop out of, other, happenstances, so to speak. So, it's like finding a balance between like how much, to stay competitive in the area, like how much do I charge? Do I do a package? Do I do a rate? Do I do an hourly rate? But not also undervalue myself, because I tend to do that. Like it took me forever to say, if you're far away, because, the Capital District people, there's not too many organizers. And so sometimes I travel. There was another woman that's an organizer. She's like, you need to charge a travel fee. Like you're silly if you don't. Like you're driving like 2 hours to get to a job and you're not getting paid enough to do it. So, but that took me a while to be like, okay, you're right. And people will pay it. Like I say, like sometimes, I use the term like boutique service. Like I think home organizing, for lack of a better term, is a boutique service. It's like a luxury, but like people also pay to get their lawn mowed or their driveway plowed or their house cleaned. And they'll just say, like, I'm not messy. I just need my house cleaned because I'm working, 40 hours a week and I have 2 kids and we do all these activities. So kind of keeping the organizing of your home, it's the same mentality where more than half of the time when I work with a client, they'll say, I'm not a messy person. And I can see that walking in their house. I'm like, yeah, no, it looks great. But then like behind closed doors is when like, the boxes are shoved in the closet and the closet's just closed, never to be opened again. So they just, it's not like you can't see the floor in these people's houses. They just need a system to keep in place. And that's what I like to do. I like to provide my clients like an organizational system, whether it's like in their pantry, if it's in their kids' playroom, if it's in their own laundry room, main bedroom, wherever it is. And then most of the time the clients are good about keeping that maintenance, up because they have the skills already. It's just, sometimes the wheels fall off of the wagon. They're like, I'm out of control.
Yeah, well, and because as Americans, we have so many things going on constantly where we just don't have the time. And something that I've learned is there are people that have time and not money. And then there are other people that have the money, but not the time. And so for someone who doesn't have the time but has the money, they are more than happy to give money for something to be done that is a pain point in their life.
Right. Correct. Absolutely.
Real quick, while we're kind of still talking about your business, give us the story of how you came up with naming your business.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I cannot take credit for my name, but if anyone is listening and is struggling with the name, I feel like when I first started out, that was something that I was like, all right, I know I want to have, a website that is linked with the name, and I didn't want it to be like anything with my name only because like, oh, what if I sell the business someday to someone and it's not going to be like Liz's, professional organizing service. And I wanted it to be a .com. So when you, typed it in on the World Wide Web, it would be a .com. So there was all these parameters where I was like, all right, what am I going to have? And then I looked on think it was GoDaddy. That's like a pretty generic search engine where you can just type in all these names and it would be like, nope, taken, nope, taken, nope, taken, taken. And I was like, oh, so frustrated. So there's this company, I think it's actually based in Scandinavia or somewhere in Europe. It's called Frozen Lemons. Funny name for a website, but it's called frozenlemons.com. And their whole business is helping name businesses. So I cannot take credit for Mess of Bliss. They actually gave me, I want to say like 5 names to choose from. And they are very good. They actually interview you. They have you fill out a Google Doc and they're like, what's your target audience? What does your business do? Like, do you have any parameters? So I said, like, I want it to be a .com. I don't want it to be a .net or .us. And so then, it takes them about a week to come back with you with different names. And they actually give you like a description as to why they named this name for you. So it was neat. I wish I had I don't even think I kept the original email with the other names on it, but we went kind of back and forth. And then I decided like Mess to Bliss sounds like what I want to do. People go from like, I always say they go from chaos to calm. I like to use an alliteration in my world. So I love the name. And the same thing with like even doing the branding, which when I started out, I just paid, very base bottom of the barrel, like what can I get for this? And so same thing, like I hired a digital designer through the website Fiverr, Fiverr, and they, gave me some ideas as to like, here's a good logo. What do you think? And I know people do rebrands all the time. Maybe down the road, I'll figure out maybe to do a rebrand. But for me, it's really not about the branding or the logo. Like, I mean, it's about me as the person. Like when I meet a client or talk to them on the phone, I usually have a good sense of if it's going to be a good fit or not after talking to them for a little bit. So all those nuances, like building the website, like when you have to start from nothing, it seems like an arduous task to do all these things, to check all these boxes. And I even filed an LLC in New York State. So then that was another hurdle. Like, how do I do an LLC? Like, I do not have a business background at all. And I was, nervous. I didn't want to like mess up anywhere down the road. But yeah, so all those little nuancy things, I was like, if I can get these out of the way, then if I need to edit down the road and, change my font, like my son noticed that Panera Bread changed their font the other day. I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah. So I could always do that too. Keep down the road.
Actually, that brings up right before we jumped on to record, I had a lady reach out to me that's wanting to start her professional organizing business. And she's kind of in that exact moment that you and I both know so well of, okay, I have this idea. I know I want to do this, but how do I get from where I am now to there? And what do I do if this happens? Or how am I, your head is filled with nothing but question after question after question after question. And so I was explaining to her, I said, that is what a coach is for, is like you were saying, your aunt coached you. Hiring a coach is someone that can answer those questions for you. They've been there and done that. They have resources and tools. And a lot of times it even boils down to having someone hold you accountable and having a relationship with someone that will sit and listen to you and understands the struggle that you're walking because they've walked it themselves.
Absolutely.
Well, and, I always tell my clients too, like I can help you with all of the, the website, even doing like role playing of answering the phone or doing a consultation or, there's all these things I can help you with when it comes to A, the legal side, and B, the tax side. I refer them out because I'm not trying to give legal or tax advice, but every other thing that comes along with it, for the most part, I'm able to either answer or I can get a hold of someone that can help me answer that question. So yeah, I'm obsessed with coaching. I love it because for me, everything has, even starting my organizing business, was about helping people. And so then when I got certified as a life coach, the reason I even got certified as a coach to begin with, because I realized my organizing clients were needing emotional support, not just physical support. And so that's how that even came about. And then once I was certified as a life coach, I realized business coaching was a thing. And I was like, wait, what? And so that's, how I kind of like not fell into it, but it's a natural progression of once you find something that you love and that you're good at, to be able to turn around and help other people do that same thing that changed your life.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's great. Because I think this profession is everyone's like a helper in this role. You're going to be interacting with people, I mean, you don't get in this business if you're not a people person and you don't enjoy helping people.
Right.
Otherwise you may need to like reevaluate what your interests are. I mean, because some people love to organize, but like would never want to do it, in public, or they're just like happy doing it like in their own homes. But, knowing that, right, the social media nowadays and the TV shows that are in, there's a lot of books. I mean, I read almost every organizing book in my public library when I went to start. So it's like, and they all say like very similar things. So I'm like, okay, well, if these people can do it and they're saying things that like sound very, easy for me to follow and seem like, secondhand nature, then I should feel comfortable, doing it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as organizers, our type A personality like almost sabotages us sometimes. And we end up in like that analysis paralysis, especially when we're first starting, where we question everything or we second guess it or what about this, but we want it to be perfect. And like I was talking about in a previous episode, at some point you just need to jump and then you can tweak as you go. Like it does not have to be perfect to launch it. You just have to get it going and then you
Exactly.
can change later on.
100%.
Yeah. So, one question that I love as a question to ask a lot of the organizers is what is something you have learned and that you know now that you wish you knew in the beginning of your business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think really having a clear service agreement or a contract with your client is extremely helpful. Not that, knock on wood, like not that I have gotten into any like major situations, but and understand your limits. So like my service agreement, I still have it on paper. I print it out for people. I, enter all the information that they need to know. And then I have them sign it in front of me so that if they have questions or concerns, they can ask. But I think, just not missing anything in the contract or having someone else like that's in the organizing business, maybe look it over and say, oh, well, you might want to add this or what about this? Cause like, the travel expense, like I never put in the beginning. And then I would like add it as a line where I should really just have it like, is it applicable or not to this client? So part of my service is that I remove items to donate and I don't tack on a fee. It's just if you have things to get rid of, I will donate them on your behalf. And if you want a receipt, great. If you don't, also great. But I had to change the wording to say like, just so you know, like once something leaves your house, it is no longer yours. Like it's now become like ownership of Mess to Bliss in that regard. I did have one client a few years ago, lovely gentleman. He wanted something back. And I said, and we had gone through this whole talk about how it evoked like bad memories, because part of it being an organizer is a little therapy as well.
Mm-hmm.
I did give it back to him. He still has the item. He has it on display. I'm like, okay. But now, that is something that I've learned quickly. I'm like, you need to spell it out for your clients. Like if you're going to remove items from their home, they no longer have a say as to like what happens to those items.
Yeah, and I do the same. Like part of my quote unquote bonus service is that I haul off all of the donations and trash at the end of each session from that day's work. But I also made sure in my contract that I put a limit on the weight of something. Like I would not be removing like big furniture or anything like that. And I put a limit on the bags. I've never had to enforce that, but I put that on there in case I needed to as a backup. For me, the second I leave, like the second the session is done, I go straight to the donation center. I come back, I pick up the trash, and I go straight to the dump. And so if someone were to call me even probably 30 minutes later, I would have already donated it.
For us, it's a little trickier. I don't know. Sometimes generic, like direct donations to like Goodwill or Salvation Army. Sometimes I'll do, depending on what it is, like clothing. Like we have a couple like women and children, like shelters and centers for domestic violence. So depending on where I'm going. But now I've actually, and I don't know if this is happening where you are, but I've found that both of the bigger donation centers like the Salvation Army and the Goodwills, their hours are very limited. And then now the past two times I've gone with items to donate, they are only taking clothing, like shoes and clothes. Like they are not taking household goods, which is really hard for me because a lot of people are getting rid of like their 17 coffee mugs that they have and
Right.
their tchotchkes. And so that I've now kind of told my clients, like, just so you know, like I might not be able to take this because nobody is taking it. And I really don't want things to end up in a landfill. Like that is why I like to donate things and pay them forward. So I've been utilizing a lot of our local like swap pages that we have on Facebook. And that's still like lumped into my fee, because some people think my fee is like too much or I should do, more things, but they don't realize like all the behind the scenes that I do, like driving there, figuring out where to drop it off, figuring out how to post it online, like some clients are nice and they'll be very insistent on please charge me for your time, please charge me for your shopping. And I don't necessarily like say that on my website that I do that. I just kind of lump it into the fee again because I'm too nice. But I do my research. Like I'll look at other organizers in the Capital District and I'm probably spot on with what they're charging. So I'm not like outrageously more expensive and I'm not like dirt cheap either. And I'm just me. Like some people have a team of, usually women, but a team of people that work with them or they subcontract out. Like I don't do that. And so, or at least I've never needed to do that. Like occasionally I might have a friend help me if we're doing like a unboxing of a kitchen or something, because it's not personal stuff that they need to make decisions on. But someone usually needs me to work through all their childhood, their kids' childhood memorabilia, or their parents just passed away and now they need to go through all their parents, things. And so it's hard for more than one of me to be doing that and asking them questions.
What percentage would you say of your clients up there are you work with them together to declutter the stuff compared to the ones that they don't really want to be a part of it or they want you to make them a pile that they will go through later?
I mean, I would say it's probably for every 10 clients I have, I'm working with 8 of them. So like probably 80 or 85%, it's they want to be there, I mean, once I get to know them, like especially the initial consult, if we do one session of, a kitchen or a linen closet or whatever, if they like, how we work, because sometimes it's trial by fire. Like, you don't know, you're inviting the stranger, me, like into their house, like I'm touching their personal possessions. It's a very like intimate process. And I say that from the get go, like, you have to like who you're working with. And so I might not be everyone's cup of tea and I'm okay with that. Like it's, I don't, no hard feelings. So they might call me back and say, hey, I got to go into work on Monday, but our playroom is crazy. They take pictures of it for me. So then they say, like, if you think we need a bin or a basket or some kind of container, let me know. I do try to repurpose stuff in people's houses that they already have. Like, if you want it to look like, Khloe Kardashian's pantry and beautiful from the Container Store, that's fine. Like, I can do that and you can pay $500 in loose site bins and baskets. Or if you just need it functional, and keeping like all the pasta sauces lined up next to the, pasta boxes, next to the, cans of black beans, then we can do that. So, I work with people where they're at. And like you said, like some people just need a jump start into getting back on track from like the summer, like their kids are back in school, they're working full time. They just need help, like getting stuff organized, or they're like, yep, like no budget limit, do what you think you're going to need to do. And I want it to look, they'll show me like their pictures from like Pinterest or something, like I want it to look like this. I'm like, okay, like that's a lot of money, but if they want it, then, I don't take a cut. Like I don't charge more for bins. Like if the bin is $5 at Target, like I'm charging you $5. Like I'm not going to upcharge it again. Part of the nice service.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that that's, very great. And the point is, sometimes the ones of us that don't nickel and dime every little thing, we're also the ones that by word of mouth, people are like, oh, she didn't nickel and dime me. She didn't charge me and, some crazy astronomical fee because she did shopping for me or because she did this or that. And I think that comes right back around to us in a better way than if we had nickel and dime them, in my opinion.
Yeah. And some people just do like the trash. Like I know people do trash removal. Like I won't take people's trash because, normally they have like trash service at their house or whatever. But like there are people that charge a trash removal fee, which is fine. Like that's on them to do that. And it's a pain, if you have trash in your car and you can't necessarily get rid of it that same day. But I mean, I know a couple years ago, my goal was to reach out to a lot of the local organizers in the Capital District and just see like what their niches were, because like I had a niche for academic organizing since I did work with middle school and high school students. So some parents would reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, my kid's binder's a mess. They don't want to do it with me because I'm the parent. Would you come over? So I'd get hired to do like academic organizing, which is it's not as popular as like doing a pantry or someone's like basement or garage with them. But that was kind of my niche service. But I don't like to do packing because it's too much of a liability for me personally. Like I don't like to do it, but I know there's other local organizers in the area that do it. So, when you get a phone call and they describe what they need, and if I'm not able to do it, because I've met, a few of the organizers in the area, I'll say, oh, I can give you the referrals for Jamie or Carrie or, Linda. Like, it's nice. Like, I don't feel like I'm competitive in any way with these people. I'm not like vying for, the one client, because I think there's enough fish in the sea to do this. And some people are, centrally located up in Saratoga. So that's great. Like that's farther for me. And I'm closer to Albany, and, I can travel, in my own little circle of however I want to do it. So everyone seems very like helpful and wants to, support each other. Everyone wants to like build each other up rather than be like, oh, you're doing that, I'm doing this, and I'm better. And, I do not get that vibe at all from,
No.
where I've come from.
Professional organizers are so helpful because that's why we got into this in the first place. Correct. Is because we want to
100%.
help people. Where do most of your clients come from?
A lot of my clients, like you said, are from word of mouth. I do have like a lot of the social media pages up and running. When I ask people, because sometimes when I do remember to, someone will call me or email me and I try to remember like, oh, where'd you hear about me? A lot of them just say like, oh, I just did a generic Google search, like organizers near Albany, New York. And then I'm usually one of the first ones that pops up somehow, dealing with like the SEOs, which that's another whole level of like figuring out your SEO and all that I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm going to be good at this. But yeah, and the other way that I kind of got my business name out there very early on, and I still do it, is you find local groups to like donate a service to. Like I will donate to anyone that asks like a 3-hour organizational session, like as a gift card. And I've donated it to the Ronald McDonald House of the Capital Region. I've donated it to the Make-A-Wish, American Red Cross, whoever is the local PTA. Like I just had a client of mine from a year ago. She's on like a local PTA and she's like, oh, we're doing a winter fundraiser. Would you want to donate a service? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like if it gets my name out there, then perfect. And there are local people that are going to use it. I mean, I would think maybe 70% of the time the gift card gets used. Someone will buy it, bid on it and win it. And then the next step is actually to claim it. So I would think I probably have success probably 65, 70% of the time. They actually come back around and say, hey, I won this gift card in like 2018. And I want to be like, yeah, it's expired. But again, I'm nice. I'm like, okay, great, happy to help.
Yeah. I was actually just yesterday at church, they were talking about having a women's conference and they were doing like golden ticket things for different vendors. And I was like, oh, I need to donate like either a session, or then I thought, well, what if I offer to help get their home ready for the holidays? The conference is like October 22nd. So I figured it'd be something that if someone wanted, they would want to use it within the next month or two type thing. But then that also lets all the other women at the conference know she can help me get my house ready for the holidays.
Correct. That's really a good service. Actually, someone had reached out to me recently, like, do you do like decorations? Like, do you put up, I have this woman, she's lovely. She has a lot of holiday decor. Like every room has a bin, but I don't enjoy doing that. Like I don't enjoy like putting things up and making it, I mean, it looks beautiful when it's up, but I'm like, like it's too painstaking for me. And sometimes people are very particular, like, no, that silver ornament goes in this bowl, not this bowl. So I'm like, okay, then no, then
Right.
I'm good. But there are services. I feel like there are people that do that. And, especially in this area, we have a couple companies that will do the lights outside, like exterior lighting. Like they put it up for you and they store it for you, which is huge.
Wow.
Huge service. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice
I've
service.
never heard of that. That's amazing. Okay. So one more question, which is my very favorite to ask just because I'm super curious for everyone. What is at least one tool that you always carry in your toolbox, no matter what project you're working on?
I love a good 3M command strip, hook, whatever, like Velcro strip, something. Like I will stock up on those 3M brand things for something as easy as, for in the kitchen, like your oven mitts, like they just have them like shoved into a drawer. And I'm like, listen, it has a little tab. You can hook it onto the inside of your cabinet where your pots and pans go, right next to your stove. It doesn't have to be out on display. It doesn't have to be shoved into a drawer. They're so versatile. Like I love using them like in kids' rooms to hang, hats on a wall. I mean, there's so many of them now. Like there's so many, like you can hang like a shelf. I saw like a 3M command strip shelf the other day, which I didn't buy, but I buy like the little hooks and the tabs and things.
Since we're winding up, and again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Why don't you go ahead and tell people how they can reach you and see all of the things that you're doing?
An easy way to find me is just to do a Google search. My website is messtobliss.com, .com. And on Instagram, it's just at messtobliss. But yeah, that's an easy way to find me. All my information is on the direct website, so you can always go there and figure it out.
Perfect. And I thank you so much. And again, that's Mess, MESSTOBLISS.com or on the Google search. You have been listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to the show notes to find all of the links mentioned in this episode and hit that subscribe and automatic download button so you don't miss a single thing. Thanks for listening.